Hello, I'm Chuck Rowe, and to my left is Jim Brashears. We're both members of the Paradise Citizens Alliance, and we'll be conducting this interview today. Welcome to our Paradise Citizens Alliance interviews of candidates running for local, nonpartisan elective offices serving our greater Paradise community. These interviews are meant for you, the voters, to learn more about the candidates, their positions on the issues, and to encourage you to vote on November the 8th. By voting, you're exercising one of your greatest rights and privileges as a citizen in our democracy. All these interviews will be posted on our website at paradiseca.org for you, the voter, to access online and view from October the 8th right up to the election on November the 8th. And with that, I'd like to introduce Doug Teeter, our 5th District Supervisor on the Board of Supervisors. Doug,
hello, gentlemen, and thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to lead off, Doug, just by asking you to tell a little bit about your background.
Well, I grew up in Paradise, graduated Paradise High School in 1985, not that long ago. Got a degree in industrial technology, which was half business and half applied engineering at San Diego State. Got a job in the Bay Area, and after 13 years of being an engineer at an optical scientific instrument company, or companies, I decided to move back home and improve my quality of life and raise my children up on the hill. Got a little excited about access to national forest land and some base year valuations that I didn't feel were right with the assessor, and that kind of led me into this job. And then in 2012 I got elected, and it's been a pleasure to serve the Ridge for the past 4 years on the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Doug.
Well, why did you decide to run for re-election?
With 24 county departments ranging from mental health to the sheriff and his jail, and then the DA, fire. There's so much to learn. I jumped into this job in 2012 by sitting in a year's worth of meetings, and so I learned a lot. But then when you get on the job and you actually find out, what happens behind those closed session doors with the employee bargaining, also just the fact of dealing with the state and federal issues. There's a lot to learn, and I don't think 4 years is sufficient to the public, and I hope they see that I've added value to the Ridge and that they re-elect me for another 4 years.
Doug, what do you believe are the greatest challenges facing Butte County both now and in the future?
I think it's pretty obvious with any municipality or county is funding from the state and federal agencies. Our roads are, at 66%, which we talked about the last time I was in front of the Alliance on their interview, and that hasn't changed. And looking forward, there's no inclination that is going to change. Also, county employees, their medical benefits, that's the same issue that we had in June. I mean, it's only been a few months. The other side is California, through the initiative process, is making it easier for, at least in my opinion, petty crime, and supporting the sheriff and the DA and trying to I guess wade through the changes that the state is making to make sure we have safe neighborhoods is pretty important.
So what do you believe are the biggest differences between yourself and your opponent?
Well, now that it's down to 2, it's a little easier. I would feel doing my homework is a huge difference. Like I said, I attended a year's worth of meetings before I was a supervisor to, educate myself on the issues in front of the board. I don't see anyone else, the other 3 candidates I've never seen at a board meeting. And so that gives me pause. The other thing is I'm really out in the community. I'm out at chamber events, I'm out at fundraising events. I help on Bear on the Ridge, who has done a great job of making our Ridge safer. Try to get their fundraising dollars. I'm on the Fire Safe Council, and I think it's easy for people to say that, oh, well, we have an unsafe Ridge, there's all these issues. But I think the people in charge of our safety are doing a great job with what they have and are continually trying to foster an environment to get funding to make what we have better. And if you don't go to those meetings, like the Fire Safe Council meetings, you're just not going to be informed on what they're doing. And, you know, I hate to say it, but our hands are tied by, again, state and federal funding. The other thing is, I believe my background is pretty strong. You know, I think everyone that's ran has a right to run and are very nice people. But, you know, I was an engineer, so I think that gives me a leg up on when it's scientific issues, like, say, the monitoring of the Tuscan Aquifer. Not that I'm a water expert, but having that scientific training and the desire to find the information that I need to have to make a decision is something that all engineers face and do it quite often. And, you know, I was pretty successful, so I think I was rather good at it. The other thing is I'm a licensed professional fiduciary. And one of the biggest jobs of a supervisor is, you know, managing the budget. Being a licensed fiduciary, people hire me to handle their affairs, either while they're living and they're not capable of, or after they pass on and they need someone that's fair and impartial to manage their estate or split up their estate and get it to the beneficiaries. And so I have a strong financial background, and I would hope that, you know, the public would see that after the four years, Butte County's done rather well with a budget. I mean, there's challenges. The big part of our role is deciding where, when there's not enough money, where it should be applied. And for 4 years, I don't think I've had any fault from the general public's view. Of course, you know, when you have to balance your budget, someone doesn't get what they want. And the employees have done a great job of I guess, coming to the table and making sure Butte County's in the black. And as we come out, you know, they rightfully need a reward. But that's one of the challenges, and I'm able to make the decisions and have the experience in making those decisions, and no other candidate can have that until they're in office.
Doug, where do you stand on the statewide effort to legalize marijuana, efforts such as Measure L to relax local marijuana regulations?
Well, I'd rather that, you know, like, it was just an article in one of our papers that we're tired of hearing that issue. And that's kind of why I giggled, is marijuana was right from the start. Butte County, before I got on the board, had no rules. The board, prior to, you know, my tenure, I think had a plan where it was up to 72 plants per parcel, and the lower, smaller size acreage couldn't grow at all. Well, that was referended, and it went to the, what I call the Let Granny Grow campaign, if anyone remembers that. And it was, you know, the supervisor's plan was defeated. So I get on the board, you know, I talked to both sides before running, and I definitely felt that precluding people from growing personal you know, the personal size, that's subjective, of course. What a personal size grow is, I think people should be able to do it. I think California voters and even our voters locally have supported that, especially in the likes of Measure A. But before Measure A, the board was trying to be lenient, and we had small grows on small parcels, indoor only, and then all the way up to 99 plants on big parcels. And it became apparent that it was a disaster. There was grading violations, there was illegal wells, there was diversion of water, heavy, you know, trucks going up dirt roads, private dirt roads that had no maintenance agreements. The crime supposedly increased, you know, using the data we were provided by the DA and the sheriff. It showed a big increase in crime. People died over marijuana. And so I think the public got it right with Measure A, is, okay, we're good on personal grows, and commercial grows just aren't ready for prime time. You can't bank at a bank yet, so it's kind of hard to run a commercial business without a means to handle your money. I mean, you're just setting yourself up. So I think you can imagine where I'm going with this. Measure L is not a good idea because of A, there's no banking procedure. California is far behind on what they're even going to do for their commercial grows. I was just at a meeting with rural county representatives It's 35 rural counties that are on a board, and we had experts there talking about the future of medical marijuana, commercial medical marijuana, and they were pretty lackluster in their answers on what California is doing. I mean, they definitely are going to tax it, but how they tag it from clone or seed to sale, they weren't sure. And I'm sorry, they're pretty late in the game when there's only a year or two away before they're pulling the trigger on their system. And so that's pretty sad on, you know, that a certain amount of the public came forward with a commercial grow plan that really has no answers to any funding for, you know, code enforcement or law enforcement to kick out the bad actors. You know, they said, oh, that's going to be determined later. So that's an issue. They have inconsistencies with the zoning ordinance. One is like an administrative use permit. Well, we have an administrative permit and we have a use permit. We don't have one that says both. That's interpretable. So if I interpret it one way, someone else is going to say you're wrong, and it's going to lead to litigation, costing the county lots and lots of money. There's another word, permits shall be granted during this time. Well, the word shall means yes, no real review in my eyes, and so that's problematic. I'd say big no on L, and maybe they can come back with something that's more reasonable, but without having a banking system, you know, you're just going to lead to strong-arm robberies, maybe some fraudulent tax activity. I mean, it's easy to hide how much you're making when it's all cash business. So that's unfortunate. Now, on the state system, we're going to have 64 on the state ballot, and that's legalization for recreational use. What I like about that is it allows for local control. To a point, we can ban commercial marijuana for recreational use, so no recreational dispensaries, no recreational grows. It's being treated totally separate than the medical side. But the kind of the bummer part of it is the local use on banning indoor grows isn't allowed. So the recreational one, you can have 6 plants and it can be indoors. The locals could ban outdoor grows and can regulate, but it's like reasonable regulation. They use terms that are interpretable. And so, you know, personally, I'm for the recreational marijuana legalization because it's already decriminalized to the point where it's just a monetary fine. It's not like we're going from no recreational to nothing. The medical use is so subjective of why you need medical marijuana. So we really have recreational marijuana use already pretty much legalized. And so saying yes to it is not a big problem, but I'm going to vote no on this one just because of the ambiguity of 6 plants, and are they little plants? Are they orange tree sized plants? That's not well defined in Prop 64. And then also I really believe in local control, although I'm for, you know, the private medical grows, a private recreational grow in dorm rooms or hotels, you know, or apartments. It really should be the landowner. And there is terminology in there that looks like the landowner can stop it. But, you know, do we really truly have a clear, concise, yes, that is something, or is it going to be just litigated to death? And that's the problem, is these things are so vague when they're citizen initiatives that they leave these ambiguities. And I think it's going to pass, but I'm going to vote no just because of that. And sorry to take so long on this issue, but
it's okay.
4 years I've been hearing this issue, and contrary to what that news reporter said, I don't mind this issue. It gets old, but it's not tiring to me.
Well,
I think
we're asking it because it not only has impact on the county, but it has impacts, certainly residual impacts on Paradise as well. So absolutely, even though Measure L is a measure that affects the unincorporated area, what's happening on the statewide level and Measure L certainly has impacts. So,
and that's what, you know, if I may, that's what drives me nuts about the Citizen Initiative L. You know, they're all about access for the patient, but when Paradise banned growing, there wasn't a peep. And if you truly were representing the patient, you think you'd also work on either Chico's or Oroville's or Paradise's grow limits or access for patients. But in this case, it's just solely let's go to the county, and I really feel it's just let's go to the county because we're growing not for our county needs, we're growing for the money. And I think time will tell, but I think it's pretty obvious.
Well, an issue obviously close to my heart, the county is presently evaluating if continuing a contract with CAL FIRE is preferable to other alternatives for the services of county fire protection. Without knowing the results of the evaluation that's been going on, where do you stand on this issue, and how might changing to another alternative other than CAL FIRE impact the Paradise Ridge's level of protection?
I think if people went back to the June video, which I hope is still available, we discussed this, and since June we haven't had at the Board of Supervisors further discussion on this issue, the results. But I see, like I just mentioned about Paradise and the marijuana and different from the county, the unique thing with county unincorporated issues is Paradise or Chico or Oroville incorporated areas, Gridley, Biggs, they get to vote on county unincorporated issues, and it doesn't work the other way. And so one of the options to look at is whether to form a special district. Whether it's CAL FIRE or someone else, I really enjoyed CAL FIRE. They've done a great job. Costs are going up, and so it's a good time to evaluate what else is available. I think it's been quite a long time. It's never been discussed since I've been on the board. But this district might be a way that once it's formed, only those in the district get to vote on the services that are provided. And so that's what I think is good about the analysis. I'm not going to say that CAL FIRE is overpriced, we can find another option, because I really don't think we can. But at least through the process of learning, especially for me, I'm at a disadvantage because we've never talked about it. And I'm not a fire expert, even though I have fire line experience when I was in college of being on a crew. It doesn't give me the big budgetary picture. And so it's a good analysis. But I'm going to preface, I really enjoy the job CAL FIRE does. I really enjoy that Paradise is on a contract with CAL FIRE, so the administrative costs on the overhead side of things for Paradise and Butte County are kept at a minimum. We don't have duplicative administrative areas. And I think the ability for us to find someone else isn't going to provide what we really need in our county. But my eyes and ears are open when we receive the analysis from the person we hired to look into it. So, but that can't say enough, especially after the Saddle Fire. And we've had numerous little fires on the ridge, and CAL FIRE and the air support, they jumped on that. And I guess I'm remiss. I should say those fires that are outside of Paradise, kind of in the unincorporated state responsibility areas, even if we didn't have a contract with CAL FIRE, as Jim knows, that's still CAL FIRE's responsibility. They have fully staffed stations to handle that. So the discussion of this unincorporated CAL FIRE contract is really about the local responsibility area. So it is a huge distinction that I think most people don't know. And so don't think that if we terminated a contract with CAL FIRE, not that I'm ever desiring that, but they're still going to be here. Their stations are still going to be manned. So, rest assured, CAL FIRE is always going to have a presence in Butte County, and I'm proud to have them as our fire company right now.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The county is about to close down the septage ponds at the county landfill. This could result in a huge cost increase to Paradise Ridge residents and businesses, not to mention septic haulers. What do you believe the county should do to minimize the negative impact of those of us on the ridge?
It's a tough issue. And, before we had a franchise with the haulers, one hauler was hauling their garbage to their landfill out by Lincoln. And so to me, it's kind of, do we really need our own landfill? Should we always allow space for the septage ponds? And that question's, being answered. But there I believe is a solution someday in the future with Paradise, working towards their sewer. So to me, it's kind of look at this twofold. The problem for the haulers, if they have to haul it with the only known solution right now, is to go to Lincoln. There's a disposal site there. It's pretty low cost. It's just the added fee of the travel time. And to do their same amount of business, they might have to get 2 trucks. To me, that's onerous. The county is looking at a transfer station type thing where they have a big tank down at the landfill, which we have the room for. So the trucks can come, fill up a tank, and then you have a long haul operator. So that is going to increase the cost of that and still allow, when you look at our landfill fees, they're very, very low. And we have quite a number of years, I think like 40, 45 years planned. And as California mandates tougher regulations on landfill, that number keeps usually going longer and longer out in the future. So this interim solution will give us time, to see if the town can work up a solution, or Chico may decide, it's the level of nitrates. And I don't mean to be technical about it, but if you're not technical, you can't really talk about it.
Right.
So the septage has high level nitrates, and you go to Chico, you eject it in, it overloads their system. State regulation says it's got to be below this amount. So an option looking at is to inject it somewhere else. Well, Paradise would be a perfect spot because then it has a long run and it gets sewer water is more water than sewage, and so it gets diluted. I think if you looked at back in the past, the fees being charged because they are just ponds was pretty low. And if we can go back to a pond system, then we could probably maintain lower fees. One thought is land next to the landfill. Unfortunately, we don't have a willing seller. It was mentioned at the last meeting, it wasn't stated and such, but eminent domain, it was really what that was talking about. And would it be in the public's best interest to take someone's land for the public purpose? I mean, we pay them the going rate, but of course it's someone's land. And so that's an idea too, of then we have the room to put ponds on it. I'd like to try to find another solution before eminent domain is used for the public good.
Yeah.
So I'm really anxious to see Paradise's study and how they will incorporate septage in their system, and that might take it out of the county's hands. We've put out RFPs for private people to create a septage solution locally, and I think we had one that sounded really viable, but it just didn't pan out.
Doug, was there some sort of years ago I can recall in talking to the county folks on this issue, because it's been an issue for quite some time. Wasn't there a deadline date by the state by which you had to get rid of those septage ponds, or am I mistaken entirely?
No, it's
no state deadline.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Right.
It's more just an expansion to be able to build the next cell for the landfill.
Okay. All right.
The ponds are in the way,
okay.
and they've pushed it out. It would have been nicer to deal with this issue a couple of years ago, but you as a prior town manager and as a chief of Cal Fire, sometimes things just get drawn right to the end, and then the work gets done, and that's the case here.
City of Paradise also.
What's your opinion of the impacts of crime on Butte County since the governor's prison realignment?
And the cities, for that matter.
And the cities.
I think petty crime has skyrocketed. I mean, it's really sad.
Do you think it's more than just petty crime in terms of the escalation of crime in our county and in our cities since the realignment?
If I was running for sheriff, I'd know the answer off the top of my head. I think it's just pretty much the petty crime. I really haven't heard much of like murder rate or hard felonies going up. Mostly what's been presented is thefts of garage type matters, things under $950 or whatever that limit is. That's really all I've been hearing. So no, I can't state that the hard crimes have gone up.
Okay. Well, this is your opportunity, Doug, to speak directly to the voters and tell them why they should support you on November the 8th for re-election to the Board of Supervisors. Doug,
Great.
It's all yours.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed, and obviously I have experience. I've done this job for the past 4 years. A year before that, I was on a local property owners association to get experience. The tough part is having the demeanor to listen to people's differing views and then making a decision. And I really think I've done a good job, and you can check me out at my website, dougteeter.com, Facebook, if you want to see all the activities, or at least some of them. I don't post everything, but I do a lot of activities in the community, and my family does them along with me. And that's Teeter for Soup, and the for Soup is all one word, FORSUPE. So again, number one priority is public safety. I'm glad that last question was there. The issues facing our public safety is, as you said, Prop 109, AB 109, Prop 47. We have Prop 57 on the ballot, which I hope people read that. And I'm going to vote no on it if anyone would like to know. Those are all like making petty crimes easier to do. And so public safety also includes roads. I'm a big push to try to find, or an advocate to push to find funding. The state and feds have kind of failed us, and that's one thing I'm going to keep pushing for. And so check me out, or you can call me, 872-1852, or again, I'm in the book. And I've lived in Paradise quite a long time, and I enjoy serving you, and I hope you re-elect me on November 8th.
Doug, thank you so much.
Doug.
We appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.